New Year is upon us, and I wanted to share a movie with you guys that's focused on change. Not great change, but change. This terrifying film stars Kurt Russell. Nope, not that one. The film I'm reviewing is Overboard. This movie also stars Goldie Hawn and is directed by Gary Marshall. The horror of this film will reveal itself sooner than you think. So flip on your floaties and let's take a dip. Our film opens with credits rolling over water and a luxurious boat. Wait a minute. This is bringing back horrible memories. Unfortunately, no one tries to jump into the watery void yet, and we get a glimpse of our leading man, Dean the Carpenter, getting on board to do a job. But the owners of this vessel are less than welcoming.
I cannot sit in this cesspool by the sea.
Hello? Hello? State your purpose. It's a very expensive gun. I have lots and lots of them.
Dean finally finds his employer, Joanna, and is confused by her work order. She begrudgingly clarifies and gives him 48 hours to finish the job.
Excuse me, I was told that this was some kind of an emergency.
It is. I can't keep entering these boxes all the time.
Yeah, hey, I'm sorry. I understand. You want me to remodel your closet?
Carpenter?
Yeah.
You have exactly 48 hours. I suggest you get started.
While he's hard at work, we find out what this movie is really about. Sex, guns, and money.
I know it will cost me, but it's the cutest little painting. $1,700,000.
Grant, I'm on the phone!
And remember this for later.
We'll try to control your bodily noises so I can hear myself think.
When Dean shows Joanna his finished product, she's super PO'd by the job he did because of one particular detail.
Well, it's a shoe rack.
Stop boring me with your absurdities. What's it made of? I'm not paying for your mistake. I wanted cedar.
You may have wanted cedar, but you didn't ask for cedar.
Well, the entire civilized world knows that all closets are made of cedar.
Instead of just taking $600 for 4 days' work as opposed to $600 for 2 days' work, Dean chases Joanna around and yells at her like the true professional he is.
Just pay me the money you owe me. You just needed something to take up your useless, empty, nail polishing, toe polishing, rich bitch sun tanning day.
After giving her a thorough holler, he decides now is a great time to start unbuckling his tool belt, making the already threatened socialite fear for her safety.
Don't touch me!
What?
Hold up just a cotton candy minute here. This might seem silly on her part at first, but let's play this situation out in our minds for a second. Judging by some lengthy research I did on internet reviews, people seem to be unhappy with services provided by contractors every now and again, and some of them don't end up paying for the work if it's unsatisfactory. Whether that has to do with the carpenter or the customer isn't any of my cotton candy business. But it sure doesn't seem like it's as common for those carpenters to chase them around and give them the old hoot and holler. So imagine that you're this lady, and this big angry man with a hammer he could bonk you to death with just finished yelling at you and calling you names. He starts undoing his tool/weapon holster, and suddenly the grim possibilities start playing out in your mind. Is he gonna jab you in the eye with a screwdriver? Bonk you to death with the hammer? Or is he going to save the tools for later and do something worse? You might think I'm overreacting, but Dean acknowledges her concerns and both confirms and dismisses them with a disturbing level of casualty, despite his earlier admiration of her keister.
Hey, lady. I may be hard up, but I am definitely not that hard up, and I'm not going...
After he does this, she doesn't waste any time in pushing him into the ocean like the slippery eel he is, and tosses his tools in after him, eliciting another super professional response from him that only serves to further endear us to our leading man.
Anywhere. Hey! I'll get you for this, you... Not my tool belt! Ever get you, lady, you're dead meat. You got that? No, don't throw that!
I lost all my tools.
Next, we meet Joanna's mom and learn why she's so spoiled and what's really important to her.
Why in the world do you care what some carpenter from Elk Snout thinks of you?
Grant mentioned having a baby again. What should I do?
Darling, if you have a baby, you won't be the baby anymore.
True.
While we're in the business of meeting families, we have our first encounter with Dean's 4 boys.
Hey, guys, I'm home! What happened to you?
and I came here to welcome your family. I get toilet papered by your children. They were about to douse the toilet paper with gasoline.
Well, they're going through this arson period. I got 2 fire extinguishers ready to go.
Where is Mrs. Prophet when all of this is going on?
She died 3 years ago.
Your children are totally lacking in parental supervision.
Hey, you don't have to tell me these kids are lucky.
If you don't do something, I am going to notify the proper authorities.
I'm a good father!
Nope. After that, we snap back to Joanna and her husband Grant getting ready for bedtime, and she realizes she lost something super important. She goes on deck to find it when a fateful misfortune befalls her.
I left my wedding ring on the deck. Go and get it.
I just want to see who's in the top 10 yachts.
I'll get it.
Okay.
The next day, we see that Joanna was picked up by a garbage barge and has no memory of who she is.
Seems a mystery woman was picked up by the Elk Cove garbage cow shortly after midnight. But the problem is she seems to be suffering from amnesia. She has no recollection of who she is. That tape now, please?
Of course I know my name. Oh, this is absurd.
Luckily, after seeing her on TV, Grant rushes to save her. And then he doesn't.
Can she see us? Not unless she's Superwoman.
You seem to be suffering from a temporary amnesia, either from the bump into the garbage scow or the shock of the cold water.
Now I refuse to be incarcerated in this semi-private room. Want to try to locate someone?
Is that her?
No, I never saw her before in my life.
While doing some repairs at a bowling alley, Dean sees Joanna on the news and hears that the staff is desperate to get rid of her thanks to her bratty tude. Because doctors at a mental health institute aren't used to dealing with difficult patients. After hearing about her memory loss, Dean gets the idea to kidnap her so she can make up for the way she treated him that she doesn't remember. His friend tries to tell him that it's not a good idea, but he is incorrigible.
Said Elk Grove before. Now you know I meant Elk Cove.
Mystery woman is still suffering from complete but temporary amnesia.
And please come to Elk Cove Hospital immediately. I'll put up the reward myself. She's driving us crazy.
The bitch! I can't believe it. He's skipping out on her.
Maybe we should go down to the hospital and see if we can get some of your money back.
She doesn't know who she is. You think she's gonna know who I am? Billy, there is a God and he loves me.
It's illegal. Dean, you're crazy. You know that?
Dean heads straight for the mental health facility where, after the security guard tests the durability of her underwear, he's allowed to see Joanna without having to show any kind of identification.
I was beginning to wonder if a woman like that actually had a husband.
Oh, yeah, she does.
Here's some personal effects you might recognize.
Oh, yeah.
Nice panties. Some initials here. She didn't know what they meant. JS.
No, she wouldn't because, see, I bought these for her at a garage sale.
Quite a beauty.
Oh, she's something, isn't she?
Oh, you got that right.
Annie!
But when Joanna's sure she's never seen this fool before, he's quick to make up a slew of lies that can be easily verified, but aren't.
I am your husband.
I admit I have forgotten numerous things. But I truly, from the depths of my soul, do not remember you. Don't you think there'd be some spark of recognition?
We don't know.
Maybe you'll spark to this.
Oh! 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 He could be some stranger off the street.
Well, he seems to like you, and he's a nice guy.
He's good looking. What's my full name?
Mrs. Annie Prophet.
What's my maiden name?
Goolahy.
Where in God's name did I grow up?
Over in Goober, Idaho. You used to hang out there every night when you were still in the Navy.
The staff catastrophically fail Joanna at every turn, until she reminds them that deranged Dean should show some kind of proof.
If it were up to us, we'd be glad to give her to you, but she's right.
I'm going to need some verification.
Luckily, he's got all the proof they need stored away in his pervy peanut.
A small strawberry-like birthmark. It's kind of high up on her left cheek, and it's unique. Come to Daddy.
He takes her home where she's immediately set upon by his children, who he's told it's all right to kidnap and lie to a woman if she's mean to you.
No, this is wrong.
Come along now. We've only been here a couple of weeks, so I hardly recognize the place myself. Here we are at the old magic room. Put a lot of miles on that mattress, huh? Later. Hey, look who's home!
Gee, Mom, really missed you.
We're so glad you're back. Well, I think I'd remember if I had 3 children.
4, honey. Don't forget little Joe.
When she tries on the clothes they purchased for her, Dean lies about why they don't fit.
This garment cannot possibly be a part of my wardrobe.
You've lost a lot of weight.
Was I also shorter?
Yes. You had a bad back. You walked kind of hunched over.
When Dean officially introduces Joannie to the boys, we find that one of the boys is taking after his father spectacularly.
Okay, in the middle we got the twins. That's Greg and Charlie here. He likes to invent things.
Who asked you, butthole? Charlie and I get along very well, Mom. My twin brother and I are best friends.
Ha ha! Terrific!
And then we got the big guy. Come on, honey. Give it a try. What's his name?
Roy?
No, Travis. Sweet Trav.
Now those are tits.
Call this guy. He's your newest, honey.
Hi, Bob. My name's Joe.
He thinks he's Pee Wee Herman.
Dean makes up more lies about Joannie's family history, forcing her to believe that he and his kids are all the family she has. Of course, he can't help but make it creepy.
There's so many of them.
Well, you've always had your heart set on 6, so you just keep on trying.
My mother's a lush.
Was, honey. Cirrhosis.
She's... What about my father?
Oh, he's alive and well. And due for parole in what, 2 years?
Oh, God, I don't want to hear anymore.
Later that night, Dean goes out with his friend Billy, who doesn't seem to be too bothered by the legality of Dean's actions anymore, and encourages him to take advantage of the situation.
How's it going with your debutante? Your first night with her, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Come on, huh?
Nah, she's too rich for my blood.
Yeah, well, chocolate cake's a little bit rich, too, but I wouldn't mind eating one every once in a while.
It's while he's with his friend that he explains the genius behind his plan.
How long are you gonna keep her?
Let's see, 25 bucks a day, huh? Figure little wifey Pooh can work off what she owes me in a little over a month.
Okay, I'm gonna need y'all to hold up for another cotton candy minute. His plan is to kidnap a woman who doesn't remember him so he can punish her for being a brat. He's valuing every day that she's his prisoner at $25 a day, when she was valuing his initial work at $300 a day and later $150 a day when she wanted him to redo the work. How the heck is that fair? How's he gauging the value of the work anyway? Why does he think it's fair to keep this poor lady hostage for over a month? And why does he think it's okay to involve his kids in this gag anyway? Can you imagine waking up and being thrown into this life when you can't even remember your own name? Moving on, though. Dean comes home and pretends to be drunk and amorous to play a prank on Joannie because there's nothing funnier than coming home and making an amnesiac think you're gonna force yourself on her.
Hey, I'm a little drunk tonight, baby, so, you know, it might take me a while to get there. What? No boom boom? The couch. See, honey, the reason you got a bad back is because the bed's too soft for you, and that's why you always sleep on the living room couch.
The next day, Dean leaves Joannie with a list of chores to do around his house, and surprisingly, she does her best, but it leaves her a little drained.
Your list of daily chores. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my, I got a wonderful slave, and you are a genius.
She needs food.
Dean handles her mental breakdown like a real caring adult.
I don't belong here. My life is like death. You're the devil. Oh, God.
Baby, we like you.
You're mean, Dean. You're just mean. This lady would rather die than be here. She doesn't even remember arguing with you. To what end, Dean? What are you gonna do with her when you feel you got your money's worth? Never mind. I don't think I want to know. Moving on. We see Dean further drive the message home to his kids that it's totally acceptable to kidnap and lie to a mentally ill woman until she comes in looking for evidence. But this is Dean we're talking about. He's got a shady network of complicit liars to help him keep tricking her.
Dad?
Yeah.
Do you think she'll figure out we're tricking her and leave?
Not if we don't blow it. Hey, Billy, remember in high school how you faked our IDs? I need a fake bride.
I'll do it, but if we get caught, it's your ass. All right, now that's it. Are you satisfied?
Back on the boat, we see that Grant is partying down now that he doesn't have a wife to tell him what to do. But Joannie's mom is getting real suspicious.
I'd like to speak to my daughter.
They're not here, madam. They've gone out shopping.
The kids play a prank on her and she finally stands up for herself. But it doesn't matter.
You'll never punish them. Ever since I walked through that door, I have cooked, cleaned, scrubbed, chopped wood. I've waited on you, your dogs, your kids, and your friends in hopes that I would remember some shred of my life. Well, it bothers me now.
After being dismissed by Dean, Joannie deals out a more appropriate punishment for someone making her upset.
Sugar lips.
The boys have a perfectly sane way of dealing with someone playing a prank on them, putting on masks and chasing the pretty lady into the woods.
Look at this. I gotta go to work.
Wait for me! She went this way! Crystal Ghouls attack!
The next day at school, the principal is surprised to hear that the boys have a new mom, and this gives us the hope that someone might finally dismantle the web of lies that Dean has woven.
Is anyone at your home?
Yeah, our mom is.
You have a mother now? Your father remarried?
Yeah, we got a new mother now.
But of course that doesn't happen. And instead, Joannie realizes the boys have poison oak and goes home after telling the principal that all the things she said were poo-poo garbage potatoes.
Children are slovenly, incorrigible, and being reared by a father who clearly isn't concerned about their welfare, but is himself just a large child.
Has it escaped your attention that these children have head-to-toe poison oak? My husband may be a large child, but that's none of your business.
Back at home, Joannie learns that Joe can't read, and when she confronts Dean about it, he almost gives away his secret when tricking a woman with a strong personality into believing she's the mother of your children backfires on him.
You know, I let the water routine slide by the other day, but let's not push it, okay?
We have to talk.
Okay, get to the point, Annie. I got things to do. Billy and the guys are waiting for me.
Are you aware that Joey can't read? They need a father.
You shouldn't be talking about it. Are you stepping over the line here, Annie? It's none of your business anyway.
He comes home later that night and tries to apologize to her. After all, she's doing a great job being his slave and all. But she's overcome by a distressing medical situation, and he finally lets her sleep in the bed.
You know, I think you're doing great.
I got poison oak, too. Oh, no, I'm not going back in the water barrel.
I'm putting you in the bedroom.
To ease her distress, she asks Dean to tell her a nice story about her past, since all the ones he's made up are so unpleasant. He's happy to add to the mishmash of lies before bed.
Tell me something about my life, about my past, please. Something not horrible.
You were working at Burger Boy over in Louisville. This kid started choking on a French fry. I ran right over there to him, and you gave him that Heimlich maneuver. Kid puked up the fry, and they named you Burger Boy Employee of the Month. They put your picture above the cash register. I was really proud of you.
You can be quite charming when you want to be.
Later, the family is at a cookout, and Joannie starts asking Billy questions about Mean Dean and her past. But Dean catches on and stops the inquiry before it can go on too much longer.
So after I got through with the Coast Guard, I looked up Dean. You see, we used to play high school football together. You used to call him Mean Dean Prophet. You used to call me Bad Billy Pratt.
Ouch. Now, Billy, when did we date?
Let's eat.
With the crisis averted, Dean and Billy talk about their plan to build a miniature golf course.
18 holes of miniature golf based on famous breweries.
I think what I thought yesterday, it's a lousy idea.
Joannie helps them come up with a fun gimmick, and because coming up with the entire theme and selling point of the course isn't good enough, Dean tells her to go home and draw up some designs to show investors later.
Foreign places.
What do you mean, like France or Africa?
7 wonders of the world.
Yeah, bring the wonders of the world to the people of El Cove. Yeah.
When Dean goes out for another night in a row, Joannie follows him and sees where he's really been going out every night.
I don't want to know that much about it.
After this, you get the shovel fish gun.
Next, we see Dean and Billy showing off Joannie's drawings and ideas without her, because she's a lady, and ladies don't do business.
We're here for this evening is this. It's the Wonders of the World miniature golf course. I think that if you look at these pictures, you can begin to sort of feel what we're trying to do is bring some of this outer world here into El Cove.
This is a Leaning Tower pizza.
We get a short montage of Mean Dean and the gang building the course, which is followed up by Dean finally showing a sliver of a conscience.
In the beginning, it was okay because it was part of a gag, you know, but now it's more like lies. I'm gonna tell her, okay? I mean, I know it's time to tell her.
Meanwhile, it seems like the boys are bettering themselves thanks to their dad's slave.
your puny planet to rubble.
Unfortunately, Dean chickens out when he tries to tell her the truth after she tells him how proud she is of him for doing demeaning work to support their families. Instead, he tells her it's her birthday and he takes her out dancing.
Yeah, no, I need to tell you something. Here, sit down. Annie, I've done something that I'm ashamed of.
I already know that you work nights at the fertilizer plant. I'm proud of you no matter what you do.
No.
What is it?
I forgot your birthday.
It's my birthday?
Come on, get dressed.
After heading outside for some fresh air, Mean Dean tells Joannie about why boats honk 3 times.
Why do they honk 3 times?
Yeah, it's a legend of Arturo, who was a Portuguese fisherman, and he met this beautiful girl named Catarina. Eventually, they fell in love. Catarina's father was the territorial governor, and I guess he didn't want his only little girl running around with a lowly fisherman, so when he came back, he'd signal with 3 long blasts, just like that. A year later, everything went as planned. Catarina, Arturo. Oh, they drowned. Never found each other, and they both drowned.
Joannie is finally smitten by his flim-flams and falsehoods and spends the night with him, adding rape by deception to his mounting list of crimes.
Surprise! A washing machine.
You like it?
Back on the boat, Grant gets another call from Joannie's mom, the only person who seems to even care a little bit about her well-being, and he promises to go find her.
Grant?
Edith.
I have called every week for 2 months.
Well, she's sleeping.
Grant, if you do not produce Joanna in 1 week, I am going to hire a mass of mercenaries to hunt you down.
Andrew, point the boat back to Elk's Snout.
While cleaning Dean's truck, Joannie finds her mental institute panties and confronts him.
J.S. I found them in the truck.
This is nothing.
Times, and you tell me that this is nothing?
You want a divorce?
Yeah, maybe I do.
Well, you can't have one.
Unable to keep lying, he decides to finally tell the truth, but she ain't buying what he's selling.
J.S. is you. These are yours, and we're not married. There, God, I finally said it. Annie.
Would she hand out shovels?
Listen to me. I'm trying to tell you, these aren't your kids. You didn't bear anything.
When honesty fails him, he takes her to the boys so they can tell her the truth. However, his teachings come back to bite him, and the boys keep the lie locomotive on running.
Tell her she's not your mother.
But she is our mother.
No, don't tell her what I told you to tell her. Just tell her the truth now, okay? Just tell her about the day I brought her home.
She went for a swim. We were really worried. I was up all night pacing.
What do you guys think you're doing?
We're not gonna let you ruin everything. We're keeping her.
You can't keep her. She doesn't belong to you.
She didn't belong to you either. That didn't stop you.
Joannie goes to Billy, hoping he can shed some light on where the troubling undies came from, but he, like the kids, is too attached to Dean's prisoner and lies right to her face.
Who is J.S.? Please tell me everything. Be honest with me, Billy.
That's my underwear. It belongs to a girlfriend of mine. See, Annie, I got lucky with this phone sex girl one night, and, well, you see, I don't have a back seat in my truck, so I used yours. Dean just doesn't want you to tell Gert, so he's covering for me. I'm sorry. I got horny.
I'm glad you're bad, Billy Pratt.
Sex
Billy.
girls don't come to your truck, honey. They come to your...
No, stop trying to cover for him, sweetie. Let's just forget it. Pretty expensive panties. That girl must have more than one phone.
With all that nasty knicker business out of the way, the gang heads to the grand opening of the golf course, and Dean shows public appreciation for his loving slave.
Well, there wouldn't be a Wonders of the World miniature golf course if it wasn't for the imagination and the creativity of one woman. That's my Annie. I love you, Annie. I want you to be with me always.
But when they come home, they see Grant's limo in the driveway.
Whose car is that? Maybe it's a rich relative we don't know about. Maybe we won the lottery.
No, boys, your dad's going to jail. Joannie recognizes her husband immediately, and the rest of her memories come flooding back to her.
Hi, Grant. Grant, you're Grant Staten III. I remember. I'm Joanna Staten. Dean, I'm cured. You can't imagine how terrible it is not to know who you are.
It's here that she remembers who Dean really is, and her heart breaks when she realizes what he's done.
You're that sweaty carpenter who hates me. And these are your children, and you made me...
Annie, it just started out.
My name is not Annie. And I don't belong with you. And I don't belong with them.
But it's okay, because Dean is grateful for her involuntary servitude.
Joanna, for whatever it's worth, thank you.
After she leaves with Grant, the boys are mad at their dad for not being honest with her, even though they were the ones who kept her from learning the truth earlier.
Mom, wait!
Mom! You should have told her, Dad.
Back on board the boat, Joannie is having trouble fitting in with her family.
Cigarette, darling.
I don't smoke, Mother. Do I?
Of course you smoke. You've always smoked.
I smoke.
Why don't we all smoke? Well, why do I have to smoke? I never smoked. I get sick when I smoke.
Meanwhile, the boys are trying to figure out a way to get her back, but Dean squashes their little dreams.
We're getting Mom back.
I need discipline. We gotta do something, right, Dad?
Wrong. She hates me.
When Joannie tries to reconnect with Grant, she realizes it was better living with a jailer who took her dancing than a crazy person who spoons with furniture.
Tofuti. Tofuti, where are you when I need you? Tofuti, Klein, 999.
Yes, ma'am.
We've never really had time to talk.
No, we haven't.
Well, there's no time now.
What are you doing?
I'm turning the boat around.
Why?
I'm going home.
When Grant finds out about her choice, he takes over the ship and gets a doctor for Joannie because he's sure she's gone cuckoo bananas.
I suppose we're heading back to the jungles of Oregon. You haven't begun to be sorry, you hillbilly harlot. I'll go below with the crew. I'm taking over and bringing the ship about. Andrew, go get Dr. Corman.
Back at Mean Dean's unruly boy emporium, Dean assumes a new identity and takes the boys to get his slave back by abusing the services of the U.S. Coast Guard.
Who is it?
Dr. Death, let's go.
We're gonna go get her. Yeah!
Come on, guys. Billy's friends are gonna help us.
I hope I don't get court-martialed for this prat.
On the boat, Joannie and Grant tell each other the truth.
I don't love you anymore, Grant.
Well, what does love got to do with marriage? They should have kept you in the psycho ward of that hospital.
What did you say? You left me there, didn't you? You snake.
Call me all the names you want, but many women adore me. I was whacking the donkey with painted ladies. Now I've confessed, so what? We're at sea, and I'm a god at sea.
In response to Grant's identity crisis, Joannie stops the boat and is happy to hear 3 hunks that she believes are Dean coming to capture her again.
The boat stopped.
Yes, the boat stopped.
Lean on the brakes.
Man overboard!
When Grant sees this, he decides it's Joannie season, but Andrew the butler believes it's duck season and pushes him overboard too.
Pull!
Joannie and Dean reach each other and he makes an ominous promise.
I'll never let you go.
When Joannie and Dean get pulled into a Coast Guard boat, he can't believe she left a life of luxury to be his prisoner again. But she tells him the money is hers and he immediately tells the boys, who take the news pretty well.
I can't believe you gave all that up just for me.
I didn't.
What do you mean?
Well, the truth is that it's mine. The boat, the money, everything. It's all mine.
How do you spell Porsche?
Finally back with the man who didn't try to kill her, Joannie tells Dean about the one thing she's still missing in life.
What could I possibly give you ever that you don't already have?
A little girl.
And that was Overboard, a hilarious movie about a woman who was devastatingly failed by society. None of this was okay. The only reason I'm okay with her going back to Dean is because Grant ends up literally going insane and trying to murder her. It's almost like the makers of this film realized how bad Dean was and had to make Grant so much worse at the last minute so we would be okay with her ending up with the guy who literally calls her a slave. Grant going bonkers is probably the only reason she doesn't end up staying with her family and pressing charges on the guy who kidnapped and lied to her about every aspect of her life, all because she was a jerk during an argument. Being lied to, enslaved, and sexually assaulted isn't a fair punishment for being a brat. You could easily take this movie and make a horror film out of it. In fact, I went ahead and did that for you.
You just needed something to take up your useless, empty, nail polishing, toe polishing, rich bitch sun tanning day. What? Hey, lady,
I may be hard up, but I am definitely not that hard up. And I'm
Please come to Elk Cove Hospital.
That's her. Who?
the bitch!
She doesn't know who she is. You think she's gonna know who I am? Billy, there is a God and he loves me.
Game is illegal. Dean, you're crazy, you know that?
I was beginning to wonder if a woman like that actually had a husband.
Oh, yeah, she does.
That's her. Oh, yeah, that's my little cookie cutter.
Annie! I don't recognize this man. Now, don't you think there'd be some spark of recognition?
We don't know. Maybe he'll spark to this.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
Well, he seems to like you, and he's a nice guy.
He's good looking.
Come to daddy.
This is wrong. Well, I think I'd remember if I had 3 children.
4, honey. Don't forget little Joe.
So many of them.
You've always had your heart set on 6, so you just keep on trying.
Oh, God. I don't want to hear anymore.
Baby, look.
I just want to remember myself.
Your first night with her, huh? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Come on, huh?
What? No boom boom?
I don't belong here. My life is like death. You're the devil. Oh, no. He's here.
I'll never let you go. I got a wonderful sleep, and you are a genius.
Ah, geez, that even scared me. See what I mean? And let's not forget that no one in this film seems to know where they are. Is it Elk's Snout, Elk's Point, Elk's Grove, Elk's Cove? They even say that on the news. Oh, I meant to say Elk's Grove, and I said Elk's Cove. I apologize for that. Not even the newscasters know where they are. And what's up with all these movies using different renditions of Zippity Doo-Dah?
Everything is satisfaction.
Zippity doo dah, zippity yay. My, I got a wonderful sleep.
I guess if you hear anybody singing that, you should probably run. Anyway, I hope your joy from this review runs as deep as the scars I got from making it. Thanks for watching.
Andrew, I'm sitting.
Now, Mrs. Nix.